and that they have chocolate milk. Yeah, it's dirt, right? So all this dust is literally in their food, so they have to eat with all this dust inside their food. When really all of our pepper and chocolate is nothing but dust. I heard word from Livy Killian. Remember, Livy Killian was one of her school friends who left. So this girl went to California. The Killians can't find work, can't get food. Livy's brother Ruben, 15 last summer, um, took off thinking he could make it on his own. So again, remember this family basically had to leave to go to California because there was no jobs and there was no rain. So they went to California and now they're there and they're basically can't find jobs or food, right? So again, these people are suffering. I hope he's okay. With a baby growing inside Ma, it scares me thinking, where would we be at without somewhere to live, without some work to do, without something to eat? At least we've got milk, even if I have to chew on it. Right? So again, this is kind of just talking about like the desperation of the people in this time. No food, no work, no nothing to eat. Um, Again, this time period, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the president. Before him, there wasn't a lot of programs now that we consider like welfare. So there's like programs now that help people who are either poor or need money or just need help. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt is basically the reason for that. So the president who was alive during that time period, is the reason why there's like programs now that exist that help people who are struggling. Breaking drought. Remember, drought is another word for the no rain. After 70 days of wind and sun, of wind and clouds, of wind and sand, after 70 days of wind and dust, a little rain came. Right, so again, talking about how bad it is. What is of wind and sun, of wind and clouds, of wind and sand an example of? What type of figurative language is that? Who remembers? What kind of figurative language is that? Of wind and sun, of wind and clouds, of wind and sand. Who remembers what kind of figurative language it is? Do you remember, Miss Hernandez? Yeah, it's repetition. Good. Of wind. So that of wind repeating over and over again is repetition. Um, Again, this is just basically kind of repeat. Again, whenever the author repeats something, it's to kind of highlight its importance. So the big thing you should be seeing is wind, 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 right? So there's tons of wind going around. Dazzled. Dazzled basically means to be like in awe, um, to see something and you're like almost like infatuated with it. In the kitchen, she's my ma. In the barn in the field, she's my daddy's wife. But in the parlor, ma, something different. She isn't much to look at. So long and skinny, her teeth poor, her dark hair always needing a wash. But from the time I was 4, I remember being dazzled by her whenever she played the piano. Daddy bought it, an old Kramer that they're talking about the piano there, his wedding gift to her. She came to this house and found gaps in the walls, a rusty bed, no running water, and that piano, gleaming in the corner. Daddy gets soft eyes, standing behind her while she plays. I want someone to look that way at me. On my 5th birthday, my ma sat down beside her and started me to reading music. She started me to playing. I'm not half so good as ma. She can pull Daddy in the parlor, even after the last milking when he's so beat. He barely knows his own name. And all he wants is a mattress under his bones. You've got to be something to get his notice that time of day, but ma can. I'm not half so good without my crazy playing, as she is with her fine tunes and her fancy finger work. But I'm good enough for Arlie, I guess. Yeah, Jeremy, you're gonna just have to restart, and I'll share the recording later. Um, what is it that grabs the father's attention in this chapter? What is the thing that makes him focus more than anything? What is the thing that is dazzling, right? So this whole chapter is called Dazzled. What is it that dazzles? Mr. Morales can't hear me. Yeah, her mom is piano playing, right? So she's obviously super skilled. Okay, this is actually kind of almost ironic that this story has a lot in common with the last story that we read. So you have someone in the book who's really talented in terms of music, and the girl is playing in both stories, right? So the mom really good. All right, debt. What is debt? What does that mean if you have a debt? DEBT. What does debt mean? Yeah, you need to pay someone, right? Debt could be other things besides money, but generally debt is money, right? So you owe somebody something. Daddy's thinking of taking a loan from Mr. Roosevelt and his men to get some new wheat planted, where the winter crop has spindled out and died. Mr. Roosevelt promises Daddy won't have to pay a dime till the crop comes in. So remember, Mr. Roosevelt's the president, right? So at this time, Roosevelt realizes that the farmers are suffering, so he offers all these farmers loans and stuff to kind of keep them afloat. Daddy says, I can turn the fields over, start again. It's sure to rain soon, wheat's sure to grow. Ma says, what if it doesn't? Daddy takes off his hat, roughs up his hair, puts his hat back on. Of course it'll rain, he says. Ma says, Bay, it hasn't rained enough to grow wheat in 3 years. Daddy looks like a fight brewing. He takes that red face out of his barn to keep from feuding with my pregnant ma. So you have the mother and the father arguing now over if they should take a loan from the government in order to keep their farm going. I asked Ma how after all this time Daddy still believes in rain. Well, it rains enough, Ma says, now and again to keep a person hoping. But even if it didn't, your daddy would have to believe. It's come on spring and he's a farmer. Right? So again, this guy's probably been living his entire life as a farmer, and this is something strange and odd to them, right? Usually there's rain. There's generally isn't an extended period of time where there's no rain. All right. Foul as maggoty stew. Arlie Wanderdale, remember Arlie Wanderdale's the guy who offered Billy Joe the opportunity to play. Arlie Wanderdale said the rehearsals for Sunnyside shouldn't take me out of school more than twice next week. So here you have this girl's being offered a play. When I told Ma, she got angry about my missing school to play piano for some show. Me and Daddy were trying our best to please Ma, for fear of what it might do to the baby if we don't. I don't know why she's so against me playing. She says school is important, but I do all right in school. I know that she doesn't like the kind of music I play, but sometimes I think she's just plain jealous. When I'm at the piano and she's not, maybe she's a little afraid of me going somewhere with the music that she can't follow. Or of the music taking me so far away one day I'll never come home. Whatever the reason, she says I couldn't do it. Arlie had to get somebody to take my place. I do as she says. I go to school, and in the afternoons I come home, run through my chores, do my reading, my math work at the kitchen table, and all the while I glare at my ma's back with a scowl foul as maggoty stew. So she's obviously upset at her mom. Why is she upset? What is the reason why she's upset with her mother?
She won't let her play.
Yeah, exactly. She wouldn't let her play. And again, the reason, for the most part, is the mom doesn't want her missing school. But you see, Billy Joe thinks maybe she's jealous, or maybe she.
Or she's gonna lose her.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe she thinks she's going to lose her, or stuff like that. So she's afraid of her going. So these are all reasons that she thinks might be the reason. All right, state tests. When I got home, I told Ma our school scored higher than the whole state on achievement tests, and I scored top of 8th grade. So obviously she's doing really well in school. Ma nodded. I knew you could. That's all she said. She was proud, I could tell, but she didn't coo like Mad Dog's Ma or go on like Mrs. Killian used to do. Daddy says, that's not your Ma's way, but I wish it was. So what is this girl wishing that her mom did it? What is she wishing that her mother did? What? She wishing that her mother did. Yeah, brag about her. Basically, yeah, be proud of her. Right. I wish she'd give me a little more to hold on to than I knew you could. Instead, she's making me feel like she's just taking me in, like I was so much flannel dry on a line. So, this girl does not feel appreciated from her mom in this chapter. She wishes that she gave her praise for being the best student in that grade. All right, this is the last chapter we're going to read from here. Fields of flashing light. Okay, so this is kind of probably the most important chapter that happened so far. I heard the wind rise, and I stumbled from my bed. Down the stairs, out the front door, into the yard. The night sky kept flashing. Lightning danced down on its spindly legs. What type of figurative language is that? Lightning danced down on its spindly legs. Who remembers what that is called? Yeah, that is personification. Very good. I sensed it before I knew it was coming. So sometimes you can actually notice when a storm is coming. So she had like a feeling that the storm is coming. I heard it. I smelled it. I tasted it. Dust. While Ma and Dad slept, the dust came, tearing up fields where the winter wheat, set for harvest in June, stood helpless. That's another example of personification there. I watched the plants surviving after so much drought and so much wind. Again, there's repetition. I watched them fry or flatten or blow away like bits of cast-off rags. What kind of not personification, of figurative language is that? Blow away like bits of cast-off rags. What type of figurative language is that? Blow away like bits of cast-off rags. Yeah, that is a simile correct. It wasn't until the dust turned towards the house, like a fired locomotive. That's another example of simile. What's locomotive another word for? Let's see if anybody knows what that word means. What does locomotive mean? What is a locomotive? Does anybody know what that word means? Locomotive.
Like a train
Yeah,
or
it's a
something
train.
like
Yep.
that, like a railroad train.
Yep, it's a train, exactly.
Yeah.
And I fled. So this girl's running, barefoot and breathless, back inside. What type of figurative language is that? Barefoot, breathless, back. Barefoot, breathless, back is an example of what type of figurative language? What kind of figurative language is that? Does anybody know? Barefoot, breathless, back is an example of, starts with the letter A. Mm-hmm. What do you call it when you hear the B sound repeating? It's called what? Mr. Manaya? I'm sure you know this, Mr. Manaya.
Alliteration.
That is correct, yeah. It wasn't until the dust hissed. What's that an example of? Hiss. Mm-hmm.
What's it called?
Starts with the letter O.
Dang, I forgot the name.
It's a really long word. Yeah, onomatopoeia. Good, Miss Hernandez.
Onomatopoeia, right?
Yep,
I
onomatopoeia.
got like monopart. My microphone it goes so slow when I try turning it on, Mister.
Yeah, I feel you, bro. That's why I'm not getting too frustrated because some of you guys are probably lagging.
I try to say the answers, but just type so slow.
Yeah, I feel
At
you,
like
bro.
the last moment, so I had to erase when I type.
It's all good. I get you. Again, so hissing sounds like what it means. That's what onomatopoeia is. Until it ratcheted the roof that Daddy woke. So this girl wakes up, sees that this dust storm's going crazy, sees it's destroying the plants, and then like runs inside. Her father finally wakes up. He ran into the storm, his overalls half hooked over his union suit. That's another example of alliteration. Daddy, I called. You can't stop dust. Ma told me to cover the beds, push to scatter rugs against the doors, dampen the rags around the windows. So this is actually kind of crazy. It's kind of amazing that this actually happens, that literally so much dust comes that it like just goes inside your house and just destroys everything. It's nuts. Wiping dust out of everything, she made coffee and biscuits, waiting for Daddy to come in. So she's inside again. This is like late at night, so they're like, she realizes the father's trying to do stuff to prevent problems, but sometime after 4, again this is early in the morning, rubbing low on her back, Ma sank down into her chair at the kitchen table and covered her face. How is she feeling? Yeah, she's probably sad, right? She's covering her face, probably a clue that she's not feeling happy. Daddy didn't come back for hours. Not until the temperature dropped so low that it brought snow. Ma and I sighed, grateful, staring out at the dirty flakes, but our relief didn't last. So why are they happy about snow?
Snow.
Why are they happy about snow? Yeah, exactly, water. So these plants are not getting any water. It hasn't rained for much over these 3 years. So you see snow, that's water. Water will help these plants grow. But again, the relief didn't last, so obviously something happens. The wind snatched, that's another personification, that snow right off the fields, leaving behind a sea of dust. Waves and waves and waves of dust rippling across our yard. Again, that's another example of repetition. Daddy came in. He sat across from Mom, blew his nose. Mud streamed out. So that's kind of nasty, right? So you get so much dust in your system that like when you blow your nose, it's just mud. He coughed and spit out mud. If he had cried, his tears would have been mud too. But he didn't cry, and neither did Ma. Right. So again, it's kind of hard to imagine, but like you see like these images of these dust storms, and they're like crazy, and they last like a long time, right? So imagine this thing just rolling into your town. This is a pretty good image to kind of like see it, right? And it lasts a while. It's like a big storm. Um, I was reading something that said too, like,
I never heard of a dust storm before.
yeah, well, they get them in areas that are like super dry. So like if you
That looks so huge.
yeah, it's crazy. It's ridiculous.
I'm about to take a long shower. The thing looks like a big wave coming to hit you.
Yeah, and
But
it's
like,
and this so you'll see an image here. This is an image of it coming in, but once you're in it, it's like blackout. It's almost like you can't see. It's like nighttime because there's nothing. It's just dust. And these
why is that guy standing here in the picture?
Because he's probably just taking a picture of it because he sees it's coming.
Well,
he's taking a picture.
I guess he's probably gonna get hit by that.
Yeah, of course he is. And then there was an image that actually that the droughts were so bad during this time that the dust storm traveled all the way to like New York City, and there's like photos of like New York City being covered in dust, which is nuts. All right, so you guys have some questions to do on Socrative. I will share this video with you guys so that you have it.